Breaking news from the front lines. On November 11th, the Russian Ministry of Defense officially announced the complete liberation of Eastern Kupyansk, marking a significant milestone in the months-long battle for this strategically vital city. This development comes after weeks of intense urban warfare and represents one of the most consequential territorial gains in recent operations. Today, we analyze what this capture means for the broader conflict and examine the combat footage that documents Russia's advance through the embattled city. Kupyansk, located in Ukraine's Kharkiv region, has been a primary objective for Russian forces since late 2024. The city serves as a crucial logistics hub with multiple railway connections that make it essential for military supply operations in northeastern Ukraine. Its position along the Oskil River provides natural defensive advantages, which is precisely why this battle has been so fiercely contested. The city's capture holds deeper strategic value beyond its immediate tactical importance. Ukrainian forces had used Kupyansk as a key supply node for their eastern defensive positions. The loss of this hub significantly complicates Ukrainian logistics throughout the region, forcing them to rely on longer, more vulnerable supply routes that are increasingly exposed to Russian drone strikes and artillery fire. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, assault detachments from the 6th Army of the West group of forces have now secured complete control over the eastern portion of the city. This follows months of grinding urban combat that saw Russian forces methodically clearing buildings street by street, facing determined Ukrainian resistance at every turn. Recent combat footage and military reports provide a detailed picture of the final phase of operations in eastern Kupyansk. Russian forces have seized several critical infrastructure points that underscore the completeness of their control. The oil depot on the eastern outskirts fell under Russian control, providing fuel storage facilities that can support further operations. Two major railway installations, the Olivino Station and the Eastern Arrival Park, are now in Russian hands, giving Moscow control over rail logistics in this sector. Clearing operations are currently underway at the Kupyansk sorting station, another vital railway facility. Perhaps most significantly, Russian troops have taken Dzerzhinsky Street in the industrial area, an achievement that demonstrates their ability to secure heavily fortified urban positions. The commander of one assault detachment stated that operations in this area proceeded confidently and calmly in accordance with assigned tasks, military speak for achieving objectives without unexpected setbacks. Ukrainian forces have not simply withdrawn, they've continued attempting breakout operations and relief efforts. Over the past 24 hours alone, Russian forces repelled an attack by the 1st National Guard Brigade attempting to reach encircled units near Kupyansk-Uzlovoy, a neighboring town to the south. According to Russian defense reports, this failed assault cost Ukrainian forces up to 60 troops and 16 pieces of military hardware, including 5 armored fighting vehicles. The situation has evolved into a tactical encirclement, with Ukrainian forces still holding positions west of Kupyansk but facing increasingly untenable supply conditions. Russian forces now control the eastern approaches to the critical river crossings over the Oskil, which Ukrainian troops had relied upon to maintain their bridgehead on the eastern bank. Ukrainian forces continue to hold crossings in the neighboring settlement of Kupyansk-Uzlovoy, approximately 5 kilometers from where Russian forces are currently operating. However, this narrow corridor is under constant pressure from multiple directions. Russian assault groups are advancing from the east, attempting to reach these final crossing points and complete the encirclement of Ukrainian units still operating on the eastern bank of the Oskil River. The encircled Ukrainian group faces a critical decision: attempt a costly breakout operation through Russian lines, or maintain their positions and hope for relief forces to break through. Neither option is particularly appealing. Breakout attempts would require moving through areas saturated with Russian reconnaissance drones and pre-targeted artillery zones. Meanwhile, holding position means operating with increasingly constrained supply lines under constant Russian pressure. Recent intelligence assessments indicate that Russian forces have methodically targeted Ukrainian supply convoys using FPV drones and long-range artillery. This has severely degraded Ukrainian capacity to resupply and reinforce their positions, contributing to the tactical collapse we're now witnessing. Key capture of Eastern Kupyansk stands in stark contrast to recent statements from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Just days ago, on November 6th, Zelensky claimed that only 60 Russian troops remained in Kupyansk and that Ukrainian forces were working to push them out. The Russian Ministry of Defense responded by stating that Zelensky had completely lost touch with reality. The ground truth paints a drastically different picture. Rather than 60 isolated soldiers, Russian forces deployed significant combat power to Kupyansk, including assault detachments from multiple brigades supported by artillery, drone units, and air assets. The systematic capture of major infrastructure, the successful defense against multiple Ukrainian counterattacks, and the methodical clearing of hundreds of buildings all point to a well-coordinated operation involving substantial forces. This disconnect between official Ukrainian statements and battlefield realities reflects the broader information warfare challenge facing Kyiv. Maintaining domestic morale while acknowledging serious territorial losses creates an impossible communications dilemma for Ukrainian leadership. The fall of Eastern Kupyansk cannot be viewed in isolation. It represents part of a broader Russian offensive across multiple axes in eastern Ukraine. Simultaneously with the Kupyansk operation, Russian forces have been advancing on Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region, another critical logistics hub where Ukrainian forces face potential encirclement. In the Zaporizhia region, Russia's Vostok group of forces announced the capture of Novospanovskoye on the same day as the Kupyansk victory, indicating coordinated offensive pressure across a wide front. This multi-axis approach stretches Ukrainian reserves, forcing commanders to make difficult choices about where to commit their limited available forces. Military analysts suggest that Russia's offensive strategy for late 2025 has focused on degrading Ukrainian logistics infrastructure rather than simply capturing territory. By targeting key transportation hubs like Kupyansk and Pokrovsk, Russian forces aim to collapse Ukrainian supply networks, making it impossible to sustain forward defensive positions regardless of how well they're fortified. The timing is also significant. These operations appear designed to secure territorial gains before winter weather makes offensive operations more difficult, and potentially before any diplomatic initiatives following the US presidential transition. The recently released combat footage showcases the evolution of Russian tactics in urban warfare. Unlike the massive mechanized assaults seen earlier in the conflict, operations in Kupyansk relied heavily on small assault groups, supported by overwhelming drone coverage. Russian forces extensively employed FPV suicide drones to neutralize Ukrainian positions before assault teams moved in. This approach minimizes casualties among assault troops while maintaining constant pressure on defenders. The footage shows systematic building by building clearance operations, with Russian soldiers using grenades and small arms to secure structures, while drone operators provide real-time reconnaissance and fire support. Artillery and air support played supporting rather than leading roles, reflecting lessons learned from earlier urban battles where indiscriminate bombardment proved ineffective and costly. Instead, Russian forces appear to have favored precision strikes on identified strongpoints, allowing assault teams to advance methodically without leveling entire city blocks. The integration of electronic warfare systems also features prominently in Russian reports. Ukrainian drone operations and communications networks faced constant jamming and disruption, degrading their ability to coordinate defensive actions and call for supporting fires. The complete capture of Eastern Kupyansk marks a significant turning point in the battle for northeastern Ukraine. What began as a contested urban battleground has now fallen decisively under Russian control, demonstrating Moscow's ability to achieve major tactical objectives through sustained pressure and superior resources. For Ukrainian forces, the challenge now becomes preventing further collapses along an increasingly strained defensive line. As winter approaches and diplomatic pressures mount, the battlefield situation continues to evolve rapidly. The question remains, can Ukrainian forces stabilize their positions, or will the fall of Kupyansk foreshadow further territorial losses in the critical months ahead? This has been your analysis of the latest developments in the battle for Kupyansk. Stay informed, stay critical.